The Honorable Court, having heard the submissions made by both sides, proceeds to record that the matter before us pertains to the alleged breach of contractual obligations arising out of an agreement dated 18th February 2021 executed between the petitioner and the respondent company. The petitioner contends that the respondent willfully failed to discharge its contractual responsibilities, resulting in substantial financial loss, mental distress, and disruption of ongoing business operations. According to the petitioner, despite repeated notices requesting compliance, including a legal demand notice issued on the 5th of August 2022, the respondent neither performed the agreed work nor provided any reasonable justification in writing for such failure. Instead, the respondent attempted to shift the burden upon the petitioner by making unsubstantiated allegations that the petitioner did not supply certain documents essential for the completion of the contractual work. The petitioner has placed on record certified copies of email communications, courier receipts, and digital transfer acknowledgements demonstrating beyond doubt that the required documents were provided within the stipulated timeline. The petitioner, therefore, argues that the alleged delay is only a frivolous defense intended to avoid liability. The respondent, on the other hand, submits that the petitioner was aware of the procedural requirements, yet did not furnish the mandatory compliance certificates demanded by the regulatory authority. The respondent further contends that because of the petitioner's non cooperation, the respondent was unable to initiate further steps in the project. The court, however, observes that the respondent has failed to produce even a single document evidencing that such compliance certificates were ever requested in writing prior to the issuance of the legal notice. In view of the material placed on record, this court finds prima facie that the respondent's defense lacks credibility and appears to be an afterthought. The primary issue before the court is whether the respondent's failure amounts to breach of contract under sections 73 and 74 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 and whether the petitioner is entitled to damages and compensation. Counsel for the petitioner submits that the losses suffered are quantifiable and fully supported by invoices, audited financial statements, and bank transaction records. The petitioner further submits that under settled law, once breach is established, compensation follows as a matter of right. The respondent argues that the petitioner is exaggerating the loss and has not proven that the alleged damages were a direct consequence of the respondent's conduct. The court notes that the respondent has not placed any documentary evidence in support of its claims, it is also evident that the respondent has failed to reply to the statutory legal notice within the prescribed period, which further strengthens the petitioner's contention of deliberate avoidance. After considering submissions, this court is inclined to observe that parties to a contract must act in a manner consistent with the terms agreed upon. Failure to honor contractual obligations without just cause cannot be defended merely on vague assertions unsubstantiated by evidence. The conduct exhibited by the respondent reveals negligence, lack of due diligence, and complete disregard to the time bound nature of the agreement. Therefore, the court directs the respondent to file a comprehensive affidavit within 10 days explaining why compensation should not be awarded in favor of the petitioner, along with interest, costs, and other consequential reliefs as deemed appropriate by this court. The affidavit must include all supporting documents and correspondence relied upon by the respondent, failing which the matter will proceed ex parte. The petitioner is granted liberty to file a rejoinder within 7 days thereafter. The matter is listed for compliance and further hearing on the next scheduled date. The court also directs both parties to ensure that no attempt is made to delay proceedings or misuse judicial time. Non compliance with the above directions will invite adverse orders, including imposition of costs for wasting the valuable time of the court. With these directions, the application stands disposed of for the present purpose. Furthermore, before proceeding to determine the quantum of compensation, the court would like to clarify the legal position regarding damages arising from breach of contract. It is a settled principle that the party suffering due to non performance must be placed as far as money can do in the same situation in which they would have been if the contract had been performed. This doctrine has been reiterated by the Supreme Court in several landmark judgments, which have emphasized that contractual obligations are to be performed strictly, and any deviation without sufficient cause renders the defaulting party liable for damages. In the present case, the petitioner has demonstrated not only financial losses but also consequential damages due to delay, such as loss of business opportunities, reputational injury, and disruption of planned contracts with third parties. These are not speculative or exaggerated claims but established through documentary proof, including communication from third party clients indicating withdrawal due to continued uncertainty regarding project completion. The court finds that such losses are a natural consequence of the respondent's failure and therefore fall within the ambit of foreseeable damages contemplated under the contract. It has also come on record that the respondent had expressly assured timely completion and the petitioner had scheduled future engagements based solely on that assurance. Therefore, the causal link between breach and loss stands established. During the course of arguments, the respondent attempted to introduce an unsigned draft letter claiming that the petitioner had orally agreed to an extension of timelines. However, an unsigned and undated document has no evidentiary value and cannot override the terms of a written and duly executed agreement. The court rejects this attempted reliance as irrelevant and legally unsustainable. Additionally, the respondent argued that because the project involved third party regulatory approvals, delays were unavoidable.